Chapter 15, Establishing Dominance. Brighton, Florida. As the dimensional rift tore open with a deafening roar, the tranquility of the training hall was shattered in an instant. From the swirling vortex of darkness emerged Doyle, a fearsome pseudo-infernal, its massive form silhouetted against the backdrop of the training grounds. With a primal roar that echoed through the hall, Doyle surveyed its surroundings with predatory eyes, its senses keenly attuned to the presence of any potential threats. Doyle stands at a towering height of about 12 feet when fully upright, the sleek muscular body that combines the powerful build of a panther with the formidable frame of a theropod dinosaur. Its length from snout to tail measures approximately 20 feet, giving it an imposing presence. Its posture is predominantly bipedal, with a slightly forward-leaning gait reminiscent of the ancient predatory creatures. However, it can also drop to all fours for increased speed and agility, especially during a chase or combat. Doyle's head is elongated with a pronounced snout that blends the sleek contours of the panther with the robust structure of the dinosaur. Its skull is dotted with patches of exposed bone, hinting at its undead nature. Its eyes glow with an eerie, malevolent green light, devoid of any pupils, casting a haunting gaze that pierces the darkness. These eyes are set deep within bony sockets, enhancing its fearsome appearance. The mouth is filled with rows of sharp, jagged teeth, each stained with the remnants of its past victims. The jaws, powerful, capable of delivering bone-crushing bites. When it opens its mouth, an unearthly, sulfuric glow emanates from within, suggesting its infernal source of power. The torso is muscular and broad, with rippling sinewy visible beneath patches of decayed flesh and exposed ribs. The skin, where intact, is a patchy mix of matted dark fur and rough, scaly hide, creating a grotesque texture. Doyle's forelimbs are long and sinewy, ending in large talon-like claws that are razor-sharp and capable of rending flesh and armor alike. The claws are coated in a dark, ichorous substance that hints at necrotic poisons. The hind legs are powerful and adapted for both sprinting and pouncing. They resemble the sturdy limbs of a theropod, with thick, scaly skin and muscular thighs that enable explosive bursts of speed. The tail is long and whip-like, covered in a mix of fur and scales that terminates in a prehensile hand-like structure capable of grabbing. It serves both as a counterbalance when moving bipedally and as a weapon capable of delivering crushing blows or sweeping enemies off their feet. Doyle's body is in various stages of decay. Parts of its flesh are missing, exposing bone underneath. The stench of death and decay surrounds it, adding to its nightmarish presence. Flames and infernal energy occasionally flicker across its body, particularly around the mouth, eyes, and wounds. These unholy flames burn with a sickly greenish hue, casting an eerie light and adding to its supernatural terror. Jake, Alyssa, and Bernat, locked in a fierce sparring match, paused mid-move as they caught sight of the monstrous creature emerging from the rift. "That a friend of yours?" Jake asks as the creature blasts through the doors and into the training room. Alyssa and Bernat immediately bring their weapons around to face the new threat. With lightning speed, Doyle lunged forward, its massive claws slashing through the air with deadly precision that advanced upon the trio with relentless ferocity. Alyssa and Bernat, as seasoned monster hunters, reacted swiftly, drawing their weapons and moving to intercept the creature before it could strike Jake. The training hall erupted into chaos as Doyle clashed with Alyssa and Bernat, its massive form towering over them like a force of nature. The sound of metal meeting flesh filled the air as swords and claws clashed. The combatants locked in a deadly dance of death and destruction. Despite their skill and experience, Alyssa and Bernat found themselves hard-pressed to match the sheer brute force of Doyle. With each swipe of its claws and snap of its jaws, the creature seemed to shrug off their attacks with contemptuous ease. Its thick hide was simply too much for their weapons. Meanwhile, Jake watched in horror as the battle unfolded before him, his mind racing as he sought for a way to help his comrades. With a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins, he moved to join the fray, his fists clenched and his muscles tensed for battle. But even as he prepared to join the fight, Jake knew that this was a foe unlike any he had ever encountered. As Doyle lunged forward with lightning speed, Alyssa and Bernat met the creature head-on in a flurry of blows. Alyssa, her sword gleaming in the dim light of the training hall, leaped to the side, narrowly avoiding Doyle's razor-sharp claws as they slashed through the air with deadly precision. With a swift and graceful movement, she brought her sword down in a sweeping arc, aiming for the creature's exposed flank. But Doyle was quick to react, its massive form twisting and contorting with an unnatural agility as it evaded Alyssa's attack with uncanny ease. With a roar of fury, it lashed out with its claws, aiming to strike her down with a single devastating blow. Bernat, seeing his friend in danger, leaped forward to intercept the creature, his sword raised high as he brought it crashing down toward Doyle's head. That creature snarled in defiance, its jaw snapping shut with lightning speed as it attempted to catch Bernat in its deadly embrace. But Bernat was ready for the challenge, his muscles bulging with effort as he brought his sword crashing down with all the force he could muster. The blade bit deep into Doyle's thick hide, eliciting a roar of pain from the creature as it recoiled from the blow. With a grunt of exertion, Alyssa pressed her advantage, launching herself at Doyle with renewed determination. Her sword flashed in the air as she delivered a series of rapid strikes, each blow aimed at the creature's vulnerable spots. But Doyle was not about to go down without a fight, its massive claws slashing through the air with blinding speed as it attempted to fend off Alyssa's relentless assault. With every movement, the creature seemed to grow more ferocious, its primal instincts driving it ever onward in its quest for dominance. With a surge of determination, Jake joined the fray. His fists clenched and his muscles tensed as he leaped into the thick of the battle alongside Alyssa and Bernat. Together they fought with all of the skill and courage they could muster, their combined efforts driving Doyle back with each strike. Alyssa's sword flashed in the air as she delivered a flurry of rapid strikes, her movements fluid and precise as she sought to exploit the creature's weaknesses. Bernat's sword crashed down with bone-shattering force, each blow aimed with deadly accuracy as he sought to inflict maximum damage upon their monstrous foe. Meanwhile, Jake unleashed a barrage of powerful punches and kicks, his fists and feet a blur as he rained down blow after blow upon Doyle's thick hide. With every strike, he poured all of his strength and determination into his attacks. As he fought to turn the tide of the battle in their favor. For a moment it seemed as though their combined efforts were enough to push Doyle back, the creature staggering under the onslaught of their assault. But even as they fought with all of their might, they soon realized that the creature was still far too strong for them to defeat on their own. With a roar of defiance, Doyle unleashed a savage counterattack, its claws slashing through the air with blinding speed as it sought to drive them back once more. Despite their best efforts to hold their ground, Alyssa, Bernat, and Jake found themselves hard-pressed to withstand the ferocity of the creature's assault. "I don't think I like your training methods anymore," Jake groans, wiping a stream of blood from his lips. "I promise this isn't us," Bernat says. "This thing, whatever it is, was drawn to us like a moth to the flame." "It's a revenant," Alyssa growls, her eyes remaining focused on the threat. "But unlike anyone that I've ever encountered before." "I've fought a few revenants myself. I guarantee you that this is no damn revenant," Jake says. Behind them, the PIA agents scramble for answers and to mount defensive procedures. Agent Colstock connects with Director Rice on his phone. "Sir, we have a situation here." "It's not just you. There are attacks being reported all across the world by strange creatures ripped right out of a nightmare." "Yeah, that pretty much sums it up," Agent Colstock says. One of those nightmares is here in the lobby of our training room. The monster hunters and Jake Stewart have engaged it in battle, but it isn't going too well. What? Tell them not to play around with it. The other reports say that these creatures absorb life energy. The longer they fight it, the more fatigued they'll become, and the stronger it will get. Hey, Agent Colstock shouts. The boss says no more screwing around. Kill it before it absorbs your life energy anymore. Absorbs our life energy? Jake whispers. So it really is a revenant? Alyssa parries Zottle's strikes, the flat side of her sword, her feet skidding back several feet from the impact. Bernat rushes the creature from behind his companion to her right, but Zottle's tail hand quickly snatches him by an arm and flings the man across the room. Bernat's back hits the wall hard, and he shouts out in pain before collapsing to his hands and knees. Colstock and the other agents open fire on the creature with their handguns, but the bullets seem to have no effect. Zottle repels Alyssa away and roars loudly, expanding his aura outward before condensing it into dozens of floating black spikes. The pseudo-infernal launches the projectiles at the agents, but Jake intercepts and flares his own aura outward to dispel the negative energy. Several of the agents are sweating heavily and their complexion has paled. One drops to a knee in exhaustion, fighting passing out from fatigue. You all stay back, Jake says. Your bodies can't handle being this close to a revenant. Not one of this bastard's level. Zottle rushes Jake with furious claw slashes, but the teen manages to block and dodge each attack, using his aura as a defensive shield cocooning his body. Zottle continues the offensive, pushing Jake back, when suddenly it grabs the teen by the face with its tail hand. Before the undead can do anything else, both Alyssa and Bernat's blades cross through Zottle's tail and sever it in a flash of black gore. Jake drops to the ground in a crouch, before immediately thrusting forward with a devastating right to the creature's chest. The force of the blow leaves an indentation of Jake's fist upon Zottle's flesh before ever even making physical contact. Zottle is propelled across the training hall and through a wall. Before victory can be celebrated, Zottle roars loudly and flares out his energy. Multiple long tails ending in clawed hands emerge from the creature's back. Both Alyssa and Bernat leap at Zottle with flashing cuts, but are swatted away by the tail hands. Jake leaps to avoid the tails as they begin striking at him with closed fists in rapid succession. The attacks come too frequently and are difficult to evade. Jake is struck by several punches, causing him to hold his chest in pain and drool blood from the corners of his mouth. The skin where the fists made contact turn ashen and dead, flaking away like dust in a strong wind. Try not to let it touch your skin, Bernat shouts, attempting to move in close and evading the creature's attacks. It can siphon your life energy. I know that, Jake grumbles in frustration, wiping the blood from his lips with the back of his hand. This isn't my first dance with the dead. The teen's energy flares outward with his emotions and burns brightly like a blue flame, highlighted with electrical crackling of red and black energy. This creature is not a normal revenant, Alyssa cautions. Its intelligence and fighting style are too refined. This monster is not mindlessly hunting. It has targeted us specifically. What? Jake looks around the training hall, just now realizing that there are much easier prey, just standing back and trying to stay as far away from the danger as possible. A revenant would go after the weaker prey first, to boost its strength. Alyssa nods. This is a different kind of hunt. This is a trophy hunt. Whatever it is, I'm sending it back where the hell it came from, Jake says, rushing the creature with his full speed, moving like a blur. Jake evades all of Zottle's punches, finally connecting with an uppercut to the chin. As the pseudo-infernal's head snaps back, Jake pivots and delivers a side kick to the chest that again sends the creature flying backwards. Zottle uses its claws to scrape the ground and slow its momentum. Jake's breathing becomes more labored, and he begins panting with exhaustion. Damn. Even dealing most of the offense, it's still able to drain enough energy from me to make me feel this weakened already. Zottle recovers using Jake's energy, attacking with increased fervor. Alyssa manages to cut off several tails, but each are grabbed tightly with their arms pinned to the sides. Jake attempts to get in close, but his speed and reaction time has dropped significantly. The teen evades several tail punches, but finally takes a hard blow to the shoulder that spins him around to be victimized by 3 more shots to the back. Utilizing their monstrous takeover abilities, Bernat and Alyssa rip free of Zottle's grasp. The 2 warriors growl with Therian ferality, their eyes glowing red and nails transformed into claws. Alyssa and Bernat felt a surge of primal energy coursing through their veins. With a primal roar of defiance, they unleashed their true power. Their eyes alight with a fierce demonic glow as their bodies underwent a startling transformation. Their once human features contorted and twisted, their flesh giving way to claws and fangs as their forms shifted into something altogether more sinister. Their muscles bulged with newfound strength, their movements becoming fluid and graceful as they tapped into the dark energies that now coursed through their body. With a savage snarl, Alyssa and Bernat lunged forward to meet Zottle head-on, their claws and fangs bared as they unleashed a barrage of ferocious attacks upon the creature. With boosted speed and strength, the 2 hunters weaved and hacked their way through the pseudo-infernal's defenses. With each strike, their monstrous powers fueled their onslaught, their blows striking with deadly precision as they sought to bring down their monstrous foe. Zottle, taken aback by the sudden transformation of its adversaries, found itself hard-pressed to withstand the full force of their assault. Despite its immense size and strength, the creature soon found itself on the defensive, its claws and teeth proving no match for the newfound power of the hunters. Despite their success in pushing Zottle back, they're still mortal. The undead creature is able to continuously siphon their vitality away. This not only wears the duo down over time, but also replenishes any damage dealt to Zottle. "We can't keep this up," Bernat growls, his own breathing quickened. "We will lose a war of attrition." Alyssa switches her form to vampire and rushes Zottle with a burst of extra speed, ducking beneath a tail punch. She attempts a knife-hand strike to the torso, but is blocked by Zottle's left forearm. Alyssa slashes with her sword with her other hand, while Bernat thrusts his own blade towards the creature's left side, where its kidneys should be. Zottle drops its left arm down to block Bernat and whips its tail around to strike Alyssa's arm, to knock her swing too wide and miss. Alyssa pivots, bringing her sword back around in an overhead slash. Zottle blocks with his right forearm, but Bernat appears low and to the side, aiming for the creature's exposed core. Bernat thrusts his sword into Zottle's side, plunging his blade to its hilt. Black ichor oozes from the wound, and Zottle shrieks in pain. Using the opening, Alyssa pivots to regain her momentum and attack with another overhead slash. In desperation, the pseudo-infernal brings all of its handtails together to block. Alyssa's attack cuts through the spiritual flesh, slowing as it nears the last tail. To her horror, the swordswoman is unable to sever the final tail and deliver a killing blow. Bernat twists his sword to inflict more pain and rips it from the front of the creature, slashing through Zottle's midsection and nearly cleaving the undead in two. Zottle roars in agony, trying to repel the hunters with its necrotic aura. The pseudo-infernal is significantly weakened, and Alyssa and Bernard are only pushed back a few feet. Jake suddenly appears above Zottle, kicking the creature in the face and sending it crashing into another wall. The severed limbs of Zottle begin to move erratically before morphing into vaguely humanoid figures without any distinguishing features. Catching Jake by surprise, he is grabbed by the figures and held tightly in place. Zottle rushes forward, striking Jake in the chest and pinning his back against the wall. The entire building shakes as a crack snakes up through the wall to the ceiling. Jake spits up a mouthful of blood as Zottle rears back for another punch. Expelling his aura out from his arms and hands in the black flame, Jake completely erases the figures holding him and rolls to the side, narrowly evading Zottle's fist. The pseudo-infernal pulls its fist out of the wall and turns to punch again, Jake again dodging with a roll to the side. Alyssa and Bernard attack from behind, but Zottle extends multiple more hand-tails with closed fists towards them. The hunters are forced to switch from attack to evasion, weaving and twisting around Zottle's unnatural appendages. Energy continues to be drawn from the humans, absorbing through Zottle's skin and fueling its ongoing attacks against Alyssa and Bernard. Finally giving an opening, Jake strikes Zottle across the jaw with a hard right hook. The pseudo-infernal staggers, breaking its concentration momentarily and allowing Alyssa and Bernard to leap away to regroup. Bernard breathes heavily, sweat pouring off his face. We need to finish this soon before we become too fatigued to fight back. Alyssa holds out her sword and slides her other hand along the length of the blade, causing several magical glyphs to illuminate brightly. Explode! A handtail speeds at Alyssa, but she slashes the appendage and causes it to erupt into a violent blast caused by her enchanted sword's effect. Jake's eyes widen in awe. You can use magic? My sword has magical abilities, not me, Alyssa says. Mel Kleenock is the most valued treasure of the Misselvitz, entrusted to the strongest warrior of each generation. Zottle growls in frustration, deciding not to heal its severed tails in order to conserve its own depleted stamina. Alyssa slashes Mel Kleenock at Zottle, knocking the creature back with an unseen force. The pseudo-infernal is stunned by the power of the swordswoman's swing, and its eyes widen in horror as multiple explosions erupt across its body. Zottle staggers, large sections of its right shoulder, torso, and left thigh, missing and dripping with black ichor. The creature regenerates but grimaces from the effort. I think we're actually starting to wear it down, Jake comments optimistically. Zottle suddenly rushes them, almost catching Jake, if not for a perfectly timed swing by Alyssa. The blast knocks Jake away from the pseudo-infernal and takes off its right arm up to the elbow. Don't let your guard down, Alyssa scolds the teen. The battle is never finished until you are completely sure your opponent is dead. Bernard kicks Zottle from behind, knocking the creature towards his partner. Alyssa slashes head level with her blade, but this time Zottle repels the sword, and into an explosion with its black aura. The blast throws Alyssa back with tremendous force, and Zottle immediately strikes a stunned Bernard across the face with a handtail. Alyssa's sword hand trembles, hanging weakly to her side. Blood steadily runs down the length of the appendage and drips to the floor. It countered my attack, she says with frustration. And I've lost too much stamina to attempt that same strike a second time. Bernard drops to a knee, vomiting blood. It's learning as this fight progresses. If we don't kill it soon, we may not be able to kill it at all. If this is no longer just about the training, I guess we should go on then, Jake says with a shrug. Use every weapon at our disposal, right? The teen surrounds his body with a flashing black aura of mystical flame. His hair turns black like dipped in oil, and his eyes sink into a deep shade of red. Sakari runic tattoos decorate his exposed skin, and his fingernails elongate into sharpened claws. It seems that it is my turn to teach you humans how to fight properly. With a burst of speed that took even Alyssa and Bernard by surprise, Yamura surged past them, his claws gleaming in the dim light of the training hall as he closed in on Zottle with lightning speed. With a primal roar, he leaped into the air, his claws slashing through the air with deadly precision as he aimed for the creature's exposed throat. In a blur of motion, Ymura's claws met their mark, slicing through Zotl's thick hide with a sickening crunch. The creature let out a deafening roar of agony as it staggered backwards, its fluids gushing from the grievous wound inflicted by Ymura's attack. With a final surge of strength, Ymura pressed his advantage, his claws striking with blinding speed as he unleashed a flurry of devastating blows upon Zotl's weakened form. With each strike, he poured all of his newfound power into his attacks, his muscles straining with effort as he fought to bring the creature down once and for all. And then, with a final decisive slash of his claws, Ymura delivered the killing blow, severing Zotl's head from its body with a single swift motion. The creature let out one final agonized roar before collapsing to the ground in a lifeless heap. "Here endeth the lesson," Ymura says, flinging the black ichor from his claws. Reverting back to normal, Alyssa, Bernard, and Jake rush to the PIA agents for answers. "What else did the director tell you?" Alyssa demands. "Are there more of those things?" Agent Colstock nods. "He said attacks like this are popping up all over the world. Something really bad is happening." Alyssa and Bernard exchange a knowing glance to each other. "You handle things here. We're going to try and find any more of those things we can, before they kill hundreds of innocent people," Bernard says. "Did he say where the attacks are happening?" Jake asks. "Like, what are they targeting? Why attack us?" "All the attacks seem to be focused in areas of dense spiritual energy and vitality," Agent Colstock says. "As in?" "They're targeting large populations and people whose energy is exceptionally strong." "Since the three of us sparring," Jake says. "That must have been like leaving a porch light on for the damn thing." "And it took the three of us to fight it," Bernard adds. "I doubt too many others out there are going to be so fortunate." "Do you think more of those things will be on Jockey?" Jake asks. "I don't think that's likely," Colstock replies. "It may have exhibited higher than normal intelligence and adaptability for an undead, but I can't see it being smart enough or strategic enough to make those kind of plans or preparations." "That was not a random attack," Alyssa says, agreeing with an earlier comment by Jake. "That creature targeted us like a trophy hunter. If that was truly a revenant hunting life energy, it would have targeted the weaker agents in the room before going straight for us. We will encounter more of them in the future. I'm sure of it." "We can handle it," Jake says confidently. "It wasn't nearly as tough as Hui or Inyana." "A revenant's strength is dependent on the souls they consume," Bernard says. "All it would take is one as strong as that creature, managing to devour someone like Hui, and we would be in trouble." Alyssa seems annoyed by something, grinding her teeth together. "Do not fool yourself. The three of us were no match for that thing. It was Ymura who killed it. Here we are trying to teach the boy ways to survive Jockey Island, and he has the ability to switch into such a terrifyingly powerful monster." "He can't be dependent on Ymura," Colstock says. "Jake needs that training so that he can save his full power for the other Sakari." "That's right," Jake says. "I want to get as far as I can in the tournament without Ymura. If you still have anything left to teach me, we still have some time left." Bernard looks at his companion for agreement, before she finally sighs and nods. "Fine. But I demand that you allow me to test my own skills against Ymura. I wish to see how I match up before the tournament begins." Jake switches back over to Ymura in a flash of black light. "Do not hold me responsible should you become irreparably maimed or killed. Even if I restrain myself, your human bodies are quite fragile." Alyssa activates both the Therian and vampire blood within her, granting her greater muscular mass and causing her teeth to elongate into fangs and her nails into sharp claws. Do not expect to take me out as easily as you did that revenant creature. Ymar grins, preparing himself for battle. Pahang, Malaysia. With unbelievable speed and agility, the pseudo-infernal evades a complete onslaught of offensive magic. Bolts of lightning, shards of ice, bursts of fire, even conjured swords and other weaponry are unable to touch the swift predator. No other creature that has ever lived has the maneuverability and foresight of the dragonfly. Almost bordering on precognition, the dragonfly is able to predict the paths of objects, allowing it to not only intercept prey, but to also avoid mid-air collisions. As the mages begin to tire, they are supported by their peers and switch out for quick rests. While unable to hit their deadly foe, the pseudo-infernal is also unable to get any closer to the school. The battle has become one of stamina and resiliency. Ahalpu utilizes its superior aerial maneuver ability to dive and soar around the mages, making it nearly impossible for them to predict its next move. Its multifaceted eyesight allows it to detect even the slightest magical disturbances in the air, enabling it to evade incoming spells with split-second timing. The mages, growing increasingly frustrated by their inability to land a single hit, begin to coordinate their attacks with greater precision. They form intricate patterns with their elemental spells, attempting to corner the D'Inferni and overwhelming with sheer magical force. But each time they think they have it trapped, the dragonfly-like creature slips through their grasp, leaving only a trail of shimmering energy in its wake. Ahalpu darts through the air with lightning speed, unleashing a barrage of attacks upon the mages. With every swoop and dive, it evades their elemental spells with uncanny agility, its iridescent wings shimmering in the light of the magical energy surrounding them. The mages, undeterred by the creature's elusive movements, continue to unleash their elemental powers with determined focus. Bolts of lightning crackle through the air, streaking towards the D'Inferni, with blinding speed only to be deftly sidestepped at the last moment. Jets of flame erupt from the ground, forming walls of fire in an attempt to corral the creature, but it effortlessly weaves its way through the gaps, its live form barely touched by the flames. In a synchronized display of magical coordination, the mages combine their elemental forces, creating intricate patterns of wind, fire, water, and earth, in an attempt to ensnare the elusive pseudo-infernal. Walls of solid rock rise from the ground, encircling the creature in a makeshift prison, while whirlwinds of swirling air trap it from above. The D'Inferni, with its keen eyesight and unparalleled agility, sees through their tactics, slipping through the smallest openings with ease. As the battle rages on, the mages find themselves pushed to their limits, their magical energies draining with each successive attack. Yet their determination remains unwavering as they continue to press forward, refusing to yield to the relentless onslaught of the D'Inferni. In a final desperate gambit, the mages unleash their most powerful elemental spells, channeling the very essence of the natural world into a devastating onslaught of magical energy. Thunderous bolts of lightning rain down from the sky, searing arcs of flame erupt from the battlefield, and torrents of water surge forth with unstoppable force. "Kekai Doryudomo!" Master Sasanto shouts, commanding a tidal wave of soft earth to rise up in a surge to cover the pseudo-infernal. "Clay barrier prison!" Ahalpu flies upward in order to outspeed the clay barrier prison, but streaks of lightning cover the sky. "Inazu Mastra!" Nwampan again casts. The pseudo-infernal weaves around each electrical bolt, still moving at speeds faster than the humans can process. "Lanza Hielo!" Preja shouts, heaving an ice lance at the creature. Just as Ahalpu evades the ice, it is caught by a powerful explosion of flame magic. Kalan grins, his hand still outstretched. "I knew you'd dodge that. We don't have to move faster than you if we can predict your movements." Ahalpu appears inches from the mages, but is immediately consumed by a geyser of flame from the ground. The pseudo-infernal flips backward, damaged slightly from the flames. Ahalpu's movement triggers a second flame geyser to erupt. Hono no Kanten Sessen, Keelan grins. Covered in smoldering wounds, Ahapu darts back into the air to put distance between itself and the mages. The creature realizes that the flame user has cast spells on Doyle to be triggered like traps as soon as he gets close. Ahapu decides to target the humans from above, taking off their heads without ever touching the ground. Lost in thought, Ahapu is hit by a magically charged boulder. Upon impact, the rock erupts into a massive explosion, so powerful that it flings the pseudo-infernal through a grove of trees. Danton Bakudan! Master Susanto casts the spell again, charging another earth release bomb. Ahapu erects a barrier of black energy to shield itself from the attack, still trying to heal from the last blast. Suddenly, Ahapu's legs and wrists are wrapped up by magically charged sand. Sand binding! Sabaku Kyu! Mailing chants. Kaze no Funka! Nwampan screams from behind, thrusting both hands against Ahapu's back. An eruption of hurricane-force winds propel the pseudo-infernal directly into Master Susanto's next earth-release bomb. Soren dashes through the smoke, slashing up and across Ahapu's back. Black fluid spray out from the wound, forcing the swordsman to leap back in evasion. The necrotic fluid is corrosive and sizzles as it burns the ground. Keep attacking, Master Triapon shouts, hitting the pseudo-infernal with a magical energy blast. We have it on the ropes. Mater Nari, Kalan shouts, holding up his hands, palms stretched upward. Rain of fire! Countless droplets of rain-like flames begin to fall from the sky above Ahapu. Screaming in rage, the pseudo-infernal flares its energy outward in all directions to repel both the spells and the mages casting them. Life energy begins to flow in from the forest, Ahapu draining the vitality from the plants and animals in order to boost its strength. Even the mages weaken, some of their own energy being pulled by the undead's feeding. We desperately need to come up with a way to end this fight fast, Master Lim says, conjuring a steel golem with the last of his stamina. The conjurer has incredible offensive capability, but is far too slow to hit the agile Ahapu. If it continues to feed off the jungle and us, it's never going to wear down, and eventually we will lose no matter how good of a fight we've put up until now. I have an idea, Nwampan says, his eyes trying to study the pseudo-infernal's seemingly erratic movements. Try to box it in. We've already tried that, Master Quanquan says, exhausted, and it found a way to outmaneuver us. Just give me a chance, Nwampan says. I think I can deal some severe damage to it this time. It can just teleport, Master Lim argues. We can't keep it contained. I don't think it's teleportation, Nwampan says. The way its scales shimmer each time it vanishes. I think it's using an advanced camouflage. Agi Nestra, Kylan shouts, unleashing a burst of flame magic up at the creature. Ahapu easily tilts to the side, allowing the attack to speed past. Restrainta, Somchite shouts, conjuring magical change to stretch up to bind the pseudo-infernal's legs. Anticipating the attack, Ahapu darts forward with a sudden burst of speed. Vertigim, Master Xkander shouts, casting vertigo on the pseudo-infernal. Confused and nauseated, the creature has difficulty maneuvering through the magical attacks. Awane Waru, Master Quanfan shouts, attempting to block the creature with a wall of stone. Ahapu quickly flies up the height of the wall, still fighting vertigo, while avoiding collision at the last instant. Inazu Mastra, Nwampan screams, unleashing lightning magic down on the pseudo-infernal. Ahapu attempts to change direction, but additional lightning erupts from the stone wall, hitting him unexpectedly from the side. The electricity throws off Ahapu's navigation, causing him to fall into a wild spin. Now, Master Susanto screams, attack with everything you have. Master Conthon raises another stone wall, attempting to box the pseudo-infernal in, while Master Sombat conjures dozens of spiky thorns to rain down from above. Ahalpu attempts to evade the projectiles, but bounces off one of the walls, and stumbles enough to be hit by several of the thorns. An explosion of magical energy detonates within the stone walls, as every Runaviji mage casts their most potent spells at once. As the blast subsides and the smoke clears, the blackened form of Ahalpu is crouched within the epicenter of the devastation, one pair of wings completely burnt away. "Ristranta!" Somside shouts, successfully binding the creature's arms and legs. "How did you manage to surprise that thing?" Master Susanto asks. "When Master Konfon cast his stone wall, I cast my own spell to insert a metal rod within it," Noampon says. "Because of the rod, the wall absorbed enough of my lightning for me to be able to discharge it at will." "Wow," Master Susanto says, thoroughly impressed. "You planned more steps ahead than even that thing was able to anticipate. Well done." "The question still remains, what is that thing?" Master Iskander asks. "And why did it attack us?" "The timing is awfully suspect," Master Lim says. "What do you mean?" Master Susanto asks, confused. "As soon as we began preparing to send mages to Jockey Island, we were attacked by an unknown creature. No monster should have even known where our location was. Our sanctuary has never once been attacked before today. I warned that lowering our protections would be dangerous and open us up to attack," Master Chayapong says, angrily. "Even if this was related to the tournament, that still does not explain what the creature is or why it attacked us," Master Iskander argues. "I have been trying to figure that out," Master Sombat says, standing over the still-bound creature. "It has all of the indications of being a revenant, but it is something else. It is almost as if it were a revenant on the verge of being a living thing once more." "That's impossible," Master Lim shouts. "Everyone knows that revenants are the spirits of the hungry dead. They cannot have found a pathway back to life." "Is it that hard to believe that even the creatures of the wastes can be judged by Lord Yama?" Master Sombat asks. Yama is the god of death and justice in Hinduism. He is responsible for judging the souls of the deceased and assigning them their next incarnation based on their karma. "Whatever that thing is, it is not some karmic being," Master Lim shouts angrily. "It is an abomination attempting to mimic life, existing only to feed upon those that are truly alive." Reincarnation implies a fundamental change in physical form, personality, or identity. If a being were to retain parts of its former appearance as a subsequent incarnation, it would undermine the transformative nature of the reincarnation process. Reincarnation is often believed to occur across different species and forms of life. For example, a human soul might be reborn as an animal, or vice versa. In such cases, the physical appearance and characteristics of the new form would be entirely different from the previous one. The circumstances and characteristics of each incarnation are believed to be influenced by the soul's accumulated karma. If a being were to retain parts of its former appearance, it would suggest a predetermined aspect of reincarnation, contrary to the principle of karma, which implies that each life is shaped by past actions and experiences. The purpose of reincarnation is often seen as spiritual evolution and growth. Retaining parts of a former appearance would limit this growth and hinder the soul's ability to experience diverse forms of existence and learn from different perspectives. In many spiritual teachings, physical appearance is seen as transient and superficial, while the soul is considered eternal and immutable. Retaining parts of a former appearance would place undue emphasis on the physical aspect of existence rather than the deeper spiritual essence that transcends physical form. "How else do you explain it?" Master Sombat asks. "I sense both life, energy, and undead darkness within this creature. Somehow, it is straddling both realms." Angered, Master Lim throws a hand towards the pseudo-infernal and consumes it in an enormous burst of magical energy. Nothing but ash remains of a hall pool when the smoke clears. "What have you done?" Master Sombat shouts. We still needed answers. We needed it alive to study further. That thing was not alive, Master Lim growls. Besides, it was far too dangerous to allow to exist. Repair the barrier's spells. We are activating full defensive procedures. You cannot issue that order unilaterally, Master Xander argues. We all have a say in this. I agree with Master Lim, Master Chayapon says. Protecting this school and our students should be our #1 priority. Until we get to the bottom of this attack, I move for us to go into total lockdown. No one in or out of the barrier. But Captain Arisai is expecting our assistance, Master Xander shouts. We gave him our word. The situation has changed, Master Quanthon says, siding with the others. We cannot put the lives of our students at any more risk without knowing the severity of our enemy or their motivations. Preacher, Master Xander turns to Master Sombat for her opinion. Master Sombat continues to glare at Master Lim. While I disagree with Master Lim's hasty actions, I cannot deny the danger of not knowing enough information. I think it would be best for us to hole up in here for a while and try to learn as much as we can about our enemy. Can we at least let Endalgion know that we will no longer be sending any help to them? Master Xander asks, defeated. I believe that would be too risky, Master Chayapon argues. We cannot be sure that allowing a communication link to Endalgion isn't what brought that monster to us in the first place. Endalgion is surrounded by the wastes that the Revenants call home, Master Sombat admits. So that's it? Master Xander asks. Does no one else agree with me that we should still send help to Captain Arisai? I am afraid that the majority sides with defending our school and the lives of our students, Master Susanto says. I don't think there is anything else that we can do. I would think that with your history with Endalgion, you would be the last person that would want to help them, Master Lim says. It isn't the city that I want to help, but there are innocents there that are in just as much danger as we are. And how do you know that for sure? Master Chayapon says. Could Endalgion not have been asking for help just to betray us? To finish what they started when those of us who first fled their cruelty? If the tournament is real, and a being of pure evil is allowed to win because we did not stand up to face them, the entire world will be in danger, Master Xander argues. We do not know that for certain, Master Chayapon says. For all we do know, going to Jockey is a trap to wipe us out. More of those things could very well be waiting for us to leave the protections of this area for them to make their move. All I hear are the excuses of cowards, Master Xander growls. I did not leave Endalgion to see it be remade here by another council of frightened and petty old men who do not want to lose their power. That is uncalled for, Master Quinthon says, insulted. We are only prioritizing the safety of the school over outsiders we do not even know. This isn't about any of us or about power, Master Lim says. This is about survival. Then we shall see which method of survival is more successful, hiding from the threat or fighting back against it, Master Xander says, storming off into the school. Misharim, Israel. Blaine Gabriola sits hunched over a weathered tome, the flickering candlelight casting eerie shadows across the ancient Yazatan texts spread out before him. His brow furrows in concentration as he pores over the intricately inscribed pages, his fingers tracing the faded symbols with a mixture of fascination and trepidation. The texts speak of celestial beings beyond mortal comprehension, beings of radiant light and boundless power known as the Yazatan. These angelic entities are said to inhabit the celestial realms, serving as messengers of the divine will and guardians of cosmic order. But as Verlaine delves deeper into the text, he discovers a darker truth lurking beneath the surface. The Yazata are not merely benevolent beings of light. They're also fierce warriors sworn to eradicate all who would threaten the sanctity of creation. Among their greatest of enemies are the Cambions, offspring of forbidden unions between mortals and the Devilnay, such as Verlaine himself. As he reads on, Verlaine learns of the ancient conflict between the heavenly choirs and the forces of darkness. A conflict in which Cambions like himself are considered abominations, unworthy of salvation and destined for destruction. His heart heavy with the weight of his own existence, Verlaine grapples with the realization that he is both a target and a pawn in a cosmic struggle beyond his understanding. As Verlaine delves deeper into the ancient Yazatan texts, his study is interrupted by a sudden chill in the air. A sense of foreboding washes over him as he looks up to find himself face to face with a horrifying creature, an inhuman monstrosity unlike any he has ever seen before. The pseudo-infernal known as Iran looms before him in a grotesque fusion of humanoid features and the nightmarish characteristics of both a scorpion and a huntsman spider. Its limbs are long and sinuous, ending in razor-sharp claws and dripping with venom. Multiple pairs of eyes gleam with malevolent intelligence, their gaze boring into Verlaine with unnerving intensity. Frozen in terror, Verlaine can only watch as the D'Inferni advances, its movements eerily graceful despite its monstrous form. With each step the ground trembles beneath its weight, sending shivers down Verlaine's spine as he realizes the full extent of the danger he now faces. Desperate to defend himself, Verlaine reaches for the ancient texts scattered around him, searching for any clue or incantation that might banish the creature back to the depths from which it came. But the creature's presence seems to suffocate the very air around him, rendering his attempts at magic feeble and ineffective. As the D'Inferni draws closer, its claws poised to strike, Verlaine's mind races with fear and uncertainty. "Well, this is new," Verlaine mutters, trying to clear his thoughts and not allow fear and uncertainty to get the better of him. Without warning, Iran springs forward, attacking with its tail. Verlaine catches the creature's attack with one hand, about an inch from contact with his neck. Violent wretch. With a single swipe of his hand, Verlaine completely severs Iran's tail from its body. Iran recoils with a guttural shriek of pain, its segmented body writhing in agony as it staggers backward, venom dripping from the wound. The D'Inferni is quick to recover, its segmented body twisting and contorting with unnatural agility as it evades Verlaine's counterattack. With a hiss of fury, it lashes out with its clawed limbs, each strike more ferocious than the last as it seeks to rend Verlaine limb from limb. But Verlaine is not so easily defeated. With a dancer's grace, he dodges and weaves through the creature's onslaught, his moves a blur of motion as he narrowly avoids each deadly blow. Seizing the opportunity, Verlaine presses the attack, his movements fluid and precise as he circles around Iran, his Yazatan sword held at the ready. With each step, he watches for any sign of weakness, his senses attuned to the slightest shift in the creature's movements. Iran, enraged by the loss of its appendage, lashes out with renewed ferocity, its remaining limbs slashing through the air with deadly intent. When Verlaine is ready, his reflexes honed by years of evading the creatures that hunt him. He dodges each blow, his movements a blur of motion as he evades the creature's attacks. With a roar of defiance, Verlaine lunges forward, his sword flashing in the dim light as he aims for Iran's exposed underbelly. The creature retaliates with a flurry of strikes, its claws and fangs, lashing out in a desperate bid to defend itself. But Verlaine is undeterred, his resolve unwavering as he presses the attack. With a swift and fluid motion, he delivers a series of quick slashes and stabs, each blow finding its mark with deadly accuracy. Iran, wounded and weakened, begins to falter under Verlaine's relentless assault. Its movements grow sluggish, its attacks becoming increasingly desperate as he struggles to fend off its determined adversary. As Verlaine circles around the wounded D'Inferni, his senses keenly attuned to its movements, he spots a brief hesitation in its defense, a split-second vulnerability. Without hesitation, he seizes the moment, his determination burning bright as he closes in for the kill. Verlaine lunges forward, his diamond-bladed sword gleaming in the dim light, as he aims for the creature's exposed underbelly. Iran, weakened and disoriented, attempts to retaliate, but its movements are slow and clumsy. No match for Verlaine's speed and agility. With a triumphant cry, Verlaine drives his sword deep into Iran's flesh, sinking the blade to its heart in a final, decisive blow. Iran lets out a deafening shriek of agony as its monstrous form convulses in its death throes, its malevolent presence finally silenced. If that was a creative attempt by the Yazata to kill me, it failed worse than sending one of their soldiers to do the deed, Verlaine thinks. They must be getting desperate. All the more reason for me to win the Sakari's tournament and claim her prize for myself. If I'm correct, it will be the cursed Banakoska that awaits the winner on Jockey Island. With that knowledge, I will hold a significant advantage over the other competitors. No one else will have any clue what prize they are even fighting for. Verlaine's determination burns like a relentless flame as he fixates on the opportunity presented by Inyana's tournament on Jockey Island. His heart pulses with the singular goal of obtaining a weapon of unparalleled power, none other than the Banakoska, a legendary artifact born from the crucible of the First War of Falling, meticulously crafted by the rebel Yazata Sane. In the annals of history, Sane's name is synonymous with defiance. As Valoris stand against the oppressive forces of the Yazata, etched into the fabric of legend. Yet it was not merely his skill in battle that ensured his legacy endured. Sane's sacrifice transcended comprehension, as he willingly offered the lives of his own forces to imbue the Banakoska with unparalleled potency. For Verlaine, the significance of this sacrificial act is profound. It speaks to the depth of power and meaning that resonates within its soul. In a world where the Yazata's dominance casts a shadow over all, he knows that wielding a weapon forged from the very essence of rebellion holds the key to his redemption and its vengeance. As he contemplates the trials ahead, Verlaine finds solace in the belief that only such a weapon, steeped in the blood and sacrifice of the rebel Yazata, can pierce the impenetrable armor of his tormentors. The Banakoska represents not only a means to an end, but a symbol of his own defiance. Yetzira, the Wastes. Oh. Another one has been killed, the doctor whispers. I suppose that is to be expected. The first batch is never free of defects. You can see what has happened to your creations, the King in the Dark asks. The doctor nods. I installed an extra eye on each of them that is psychically linked to my own consciousness. The King is surprised by the newcomer's creative engineering and resourcefulness. Despite being one of the newest revenants to come into his presence, the being once known as the Doctor retained more of his intelligence and former self than any soul the King has ever encountered. You must have been very clever in life to have retained this much ability here, the King compliments. Several of the other D'Inferni grow jealous, envious of the King bringing in a soul so fresh from the mortal realm into their confidence. Manipulating spiritual flesh is not much different from modifying actual bodies once you figure it out, the doctor admits. I did, however, die already possessing the knowledge of revenants, and this phase of the afterlife. I suspected that here exists the key to learning about immortality. And you have made progress towards this idea, in creating artificial evolutions in the lesser undead. I have. It should not take me long to perfect the flaws that have manifested in my trial operation. Nearly all of my creations were destroyed after seeking out stronger prey to challenge. And this does not bother you at all? You knew this was a possibility when you issued them that directive, didn't you? The doctor nods. It was a necessary test. I already knew of the strength possessed by some individuals currently alive in the mortal realm. Measuring my first batch against them gives me a better idea of what changes I need to make in order to improve upon the next group. It isn't too different from adding spices while cooking to enhance the flavor. We did not have such luxuries when I was alive, the king says. Most meats were foraged or eaten raw. How dreadful, the doctor says. I don't think I could have survived in that primitive era. My tastes are too modern and refined. Your talents would have been wasted at any other time, the king admits. You lived exactly when it was needed. Without your abilities, I would have had to wait centuries or more for additional D'Inferni to be born naturally. You have accelerated my plans by hundreds, or even thousands of years. They still need some work. Losing all of the trial run is an expected outcome. 2 survivors is promising, though. A batch of spiderlings generally only has a 1 to 3% survival rate to maturity. It may be a small sample size, but a 20% success rate could extrapolate to a very high number of viable soldiers for your cause. Testing themselves against stronger prey will only have greatly improved those who did manage to survive. He pauses for a moment, though I am slightly surprised that Kodalaku was not among those to survive. He was the most promising of all my prospects. I purposely molded his battle capabilities off of your current D'Inferni. This statement shocks the others in attendance. You mean to say that you made one of your creations as strong as one of us? Doyle asks. That easily? Impossible, Yongun growls. Our power has grown from thousands of years' worth of hunting and victory in combat. You cannot just create a warrior that strong out of nothing. Not out of nothing, the doctor corrects. All of my Generation 2 Infernals were taken from the souls of predatory spirits found here in the Yetzira, just like all of you. Steps have been taken now to ensure that Generation 3 follows a slightly different path. Such as, Doyle asks with annoyance. I will be using the souls of living humans captured in the mortal realm as templates, feeding the revenant souls to them instead of the opposite process that naturally occurs here. By using a human soul as a base, I'm confident the 3rd generation will have increased cognitive capabilities and power. How would a human soul make one more powerful? Yongun growls, insulted again. It is quite simple. I'm honestly surprised that none of you have figured it out by now. Did not each of you only awaken to your current evolution after ingesting the soul of a human? Thousands of revenants have eaten humans and never become what we are, Erishkigal says. I do not see what that has to do with anything. From my experiments, it seems a certain threshold must be attained first, before a human soul can act as a catalyst for transformation. No offense to any of you gathered here, but the value of a human soul is infinitely higher than that of a wild beast in their primal instincts. Look no further than myself as an example. I achieved through my intelligence and will in weeks what it took all of you hundreds to thousands of years to attain. My human soul becoming a revenant gave me a distinct advantage over the surrounding predatory creatures that evolved from simple animals. Make no mistake, I will soon nail down all of the details and streamline this process drastically. When will your next generation be ready to test out? The king asks, accepting the doctor's claims and shocking his other infernal subordinates. Once I have all of the data collected from the survivors, another 2 or 3 days. I would prefer not to rush the process. The king begins to laugh. Take all the time you need. There is no rush at all. I have existed here in this realm raising my new tribe for tens of thousands of years. A few more days means nothing to me. There are supplies and equipment in the mortal realm that could greatly assist me in my work. Tell Bai Wu Chang, the king says, calling over a spectral D'Inferni, whose form seems to flicker like a shadowy flame. Beneath the darkness, the doctor can faintly make out the features of a canine-like biped with an elongated snout and triangular ears. Whatever you need, he can retrieve for you. He is the one with the ability to create dimensional fissures, the doctor asks, ever probing for more information. The king nods. He is an invaluable asset. He is our connection to the mortal realm. The souls that you experimented with were collected by him in his many excursions to the world of the living. My lab was destroyed, but there are Conco facilities that should have similar setups to my own, the doctor explains. But they will likely be well guarded. I do not think my pseudo-infernals would be able to meet such a challenge just yet. I shall send true D'Inferni to accomplish the task, the king says confidently. They will be more than capable of dealing with any mortals who should attempt to be a nuisance to us. I would like for them to try and search my lab first, to recover any genetic materials that may have been left over, then proceed to the other facilities, the doctor says. Genetic materials? The king asks. Why, that is one of the reasons I have been able to induce such prominent evolutions in the revenants, the doctor says. Combining living flesh with the spiritual essence of whatever we are now creates a combustive reaction that mutates the creatures at an accelerated rate. I have not been merely feeding the humans you have been giving me for my experiments to the revenants. I have been fusing their very souls together. It is a much more efficient process, and it allows me to actively choose which traits to maintain or discard. The genetic material I have at my lab is special. I had access to the DNA of beings other than just humans, each with unique abilities that I had been able to transfer to others through my crafting experiments. And you think that you can replicate this process with my D'Inferni? I am quite confident of this, actually, the doctor grins. The difference in power between these creatures and my first attempts will be incomparable. They will exceed even your current tribe exponentially. The sixth infernal, Danmui, listens to their conversation and grinds his teeth together with anger. He refuses to be replaced. In life, he was a king in his own right. It's bad enough that he must be subservient to a primate like the king in the dark, but now this human doctor is planning to replace them all, the abominations of life and death blended together in some arcane process that he does not understand. I will not be replaced, Danmui thinks in anger. I was the ultimate predator before, a true king, and I shall be again. Unlike the others, I have not lost my pride or my ambition. I will continue to strive for greatness and constantly grow my own strength until I am ready to claim my throne. A true predator never stops hunting, and a true king never stops hungering for power. My hunger is never sated. It's my destiny to consume the entire world. Anything less would be not fitting of the king of the hunt, the true king of all predators. Alone in the sanctity of his laboratory, away from the prying eyes of his fellow infernals, the doctor finally allows himself a moment of respite. With trembling hands, he reaches up to the tattered rags of his clothing, his fingers tracing the seams where flesh meets fabric. With a swift motion, he pulls aside the tattered garments, revealing the grotesque patchwork of human flesh that now adorns his own torso. The flesh is smooth and pale, starkly contrasting against the doctor's gnarled and twisted form. It pulses with an unnatural vitality, its vibrant hue standing in stark contrast to the darkness of the doctor's soul. For a moment, the doctor gazes down at the flesh, the mixture of pride and revulsion, his mind filled with memories of the countless experiments that led to his creation. Each piece of flesh was carefully selected, harvested from the bodies of the fallen warriors and hapless victims, before being painstakingly grafted upon his own body with unholy precision. They could not sense the lingering traces of life energy from my new flesh, the doctor observes with delight. Everything is going according to my plans, and much quicker than I could have ever imagined. From the first second I witnessed the revenants in action, I knew that I must have that power. It may have cost me my life to learn these truths, but it will all be worth it once I unlock immortality. I will return to the living world and reclaim everything that was taken away from me. That wretched child and those damned mages, with the full power of the De Inferni behind me, I will make each of them suffer lifetimes of agony before I decide to ever be merciful and grant them the sweet release of death. The surviving pseudo-infernals, Tezcatlipoca and Ilizanami, returned to the Yetzira through the multiple dimensional wounds, tearing open in the world of the living. Both creatures have gotten much stronger, having killed and consumed the life energy of hundreds of humans each. Even the consumption of weak lives greatly increases the power of an undead creature. Are we the only ones to have returned? Ilizamami asks. The doctor nods. Your brethren were all killed, but do not be troubled. Even through loss, we can grow stronger. The knowledge I have gained from this endeavor will greatly boost my efforts and the power of the next generation. You are making more of us? Tezcatlipoca asks. Have we not proven we are already at peak performance? The doctor chuckles at this display of overconfidence. There are far too many external factors to be able to say that for certain, and there is always room for improvement. Had either of you battled a stronger opponent, maybe even you would not be standing here right now. I could sense no human strong enough to have provided me with that challenge, Tezcatlipoca says. If that is true, then there is a good chance that you survived on luck alone. I know for a fact that there are humans in the living world much more powerful than either of you. The others that fell likely encountered those fighters, while you hunted easy prey. The doctor's voice darkens with anger and disgust. You have shown me the traits of a coward, not a successful experiment. Tezcatlipoca quickly drops to one knee and lowers his head. I will prove myself and my strength to you next time, Master. The doctor grins, relishing the creature calling him Master. One of the humans I killed was strong and put up a great battle. I know that I have grown from the experience, Ilizamami says. The doctor nods, and that was the purpose of this trial run. I expect you to grow even stronger the next time. Tezcatlipoca glares at his fellow survivor, now viewing them as a rival. The next time I will find the absolute strongest human in the mortal world, and kill them myself. I am no coward. All humans I sense were insignificant to me because of my great strength, not for any lack of trying. The doctor grins. I look forward to seeing your progress, and the confirmation of your claims.